First in line. So what does your sign say?
It says, I disapprove of what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it.
What does that mean to you?
To me, well, I'm actually transgender myself, and though I do agree that misgendering is really rude, it shouldn't be illegal.
Are you afraid that other trans people will feel that you're
Against them?
Yes.
Well, I do think, I actually brought it up with I'm from Sarnia, actually. I came all this way just to see this guy, and I actually mentioned in the transgender Sarnia group, I was just like, hey, I'm gonna go see this Jameson guy. I'm really fucking excited. Yeah. And then they were like, oh, he should be like burned at a stake. And I was just like, are you fucking serious?
Why do you think there's so many people gathered here today? What is it about this topic?
I mean, it's kind of a taboo topic, and I don't know. I think they can't really speak about it in public to like their professors and teachers. So they just want to kind of like listen to something they believe in.
Why do you feel like we can't speak about these taboo topics in public? Is it judgment? What do you?
I guess being labeled different things for no reason. So I mean, and like we're mostly students who don't want to destroy our future before we even begin. So.
Do you feel like we live in a time where it's harder to have these discussions in public without the fear of judgment or being labeled?
Yeah, I do, and I think it's a bad thing. I think what he says isn't by any means, shouldn't be controversial. It should just be another idea.
I think most people pay attention to what Jordan says about freedom of speech, and they kind of overlook his actual work in psychology and mythology and philosophy as well. So I think people are really incited to see him for that reason, but I don't think that's all he's about.
And I think this is the alternative to right-wing nationalism, which is too much order, and left-wing chaos, which is too much chaos. We don't want to go down that rabbit hole again, either of them. So what's the alternative? I thought about this for a very long time. It took me decades to come to this conclusion. The conclusion is that you straighten yourself out.
How important is discussion and debate in a time of so much political division?
It's huge. Everybody has to have a right to be able to voice their opinion, and whether it's for or against, we got to listen to them. Our biggest problem is Section 15.2 of the Charter, which has made the big mistake of pretending that there are disadvantaged groups. So we have an entire industry now which is devoted to determining what makes you disadvantaged. We've turned this into a victimhood culture. So we've got people who think they're being disadvantaged because of gender, or disadvantaged because they're Muslim, or disadvantaged because of any reason they can find. And it elevates them. It gives them rights that ordinary Canadians like myself don't have as individuals.
Historically, do you feel that there's been groups that have been disadvantaged, or you don't see?
No, I don't like to think of groups. I don't think of myself as belonging to any group.
But historically in society, there hasn't been disadvantaged groups?
Well, I don't know. I don't like to think of people as groups. And I think
or disadvantaged people.
Well, I don't know. You tell me. What do you think the disadvantaged person?
Are we from London?
No, Windsor, Ontario.
Windsor. So what compelled us to make the 2-hour trek to London?
Jordan Peterson is a pretty brilliant guy. I started watching his videos on YouTube a couple months ago, and I was just enraptured by his breadth of knowledge, his wisdom on a number of subjects, and the way that he ties together psychology, spirituality, and current subjects.
I just feel like we're getting more like, I don't know, with the rise of media, I think, and technology making it more widespread through social media, I think people are more likely to, have their thoughts dictated to them than actually think like before, when they didn't have so many agendas being thrown at them. Yeah. So I think in an age where there's so many different ideologies to subscribe to, people who think for themselves are rare now. So I think that's cool.
And what I really like about Dr. Peterson is that his discussion is always trying to move closer to what the truth is. Whether it's an uncomfortable truth or not is irrelevant to getting closer to the truth. And as long as that's the purpose of our debate, moving closer to the truth, I think it's a worthwhile effort.
How important is that open discussion in a time of such political division and us versus them mentality to come together and just discuss the issues at hand?
Do you want to get this, or do you want me?
You go.
Okay. Well, for me, it comes down to, and actually Jordan Peterson says it really well. If you can't, you fight with who you can't talk to. If you can't have an honest, good-hearted debate with someone, you'll fight with them. You'll see this even in married couples. if you can't actually have a discussion about, let's say, dishes, well, you're going to start arguing it, and that argument's going to get louder and louder, and it's going to turn into a fight. And if you can't actually have a good-hearted discussion with someone, then all there's lead is to violence, and violence is never the answer. I mean, it really just boils down to that. I would rather have an open, honest discussion where someone I feel is insulting me than to throw fisticuffs.
You're asking yourself, all right, there's a bunch of things about my life that aren't in order, that aren't together, and I know it, and they're making me suffer, and they're making me less than I am. And there's some of those things that are staring me right at the face, and I know what they are, and there's some of those that I can put in order today with a little bit of work, so that when I wake up tomorrow, the domain of my experience, which is basically being itself, the domain of my experience will be more pristine and better put together than it is today. You ask yourself that, you'll find right away. You know what they are, 5 things that come up.